chasing all the good things that await ahead. I know if I get out of my own way, I'll be winning every single day. Do it my way, do it my way. I've been dealing with myself for a while. I always have my mind in the sky. Have you seen the world from his high? I'd say, yeah, I live this life, I live it my way. Shorty ride with me, she coming my way. How you so fly, hey? We gon' fly away, yeah, we gon' get high. Someday I'll go see how I bossed up, but I kept it low key. How they talking down when they don't know me, oh. And it's just so easy when you overcomplicate it. Hit her with the layout, hey, I get no sleep, I be up so late. I be working hard, good food on my plate. I'ma keep on going, I'll never be afraid. I'll never be afraid, no time running, chasing all the good things that await ahead. I know if I get out of my own way, I'll be winning every single day. Do it my way, do it my way. I've been dealing with myself for a while. I always have my mind in the sky. Have you seen the world from his high?
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome my special guest. Hello.
Hi, good evening, Robert. How are you tonight?
I'm doing okay.
That's-
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's been a great day. I'm so happy the weekend's here. I can't wait to get some rest and relaxation. You have any good plans for the weekend?
Yeah, there's an air show in town, so I'm taking my daughter to see the Blue Angels up close tomorrow.
Really? That's so amazing. That's like a once in a lifetime thing. Wonderful.
Yep, it's tomorrow and Sunday, and it's free admission. The kids will get to take pictures, like sitting inside fighter jets and other stuff like that. And then about 3:30 in the afternoon, my time, the Blue Angels are going to be performing their daring stunt show. And one of the things tomorrow, they're going to be reenacting Pearl Harbor. So we have a place here called Stearman Airfield, and the World War II reenactors are based there. So there'll be American fighters flying over as well as Japanese Zeros.
Wow. That's powerful. Yeah, well, for my plans this weekend, I am hosting a Brazilian barbecue at my house on Sunday, and I'm really excited because I love Brazilian barbecues and I don't have to cook, so that's awesome. So that's my big event. I'm going to be planning that tomorrow, and yeah, so I can't wait. Not quite as exciting as the Blue Angels, but it's going to be fun.
Oh yeah,
Practice my Brazilian.
yeah. And my daughter, she has tubes in her
My
ears.
Portuguese.
So she's like sensitive to sound. So I went out and got her some noise canceling headphones, and she'll be wearing those tomorrow. She's had the tubes in her ears about 6 months, so she'll have the noise canceling headphones on tomorrow, so she can actually enjoy the air show and not cry because it hurts her ears.
That was such a smart idea. Really, really cool. Yeah, and she'll still be able to like feel the noise and hear parts of it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, she'll definitely be able to feel the rumble on the ground. No, LA. I'm actually in Kansas. I'm in Wichita, Kansas. She was asking me if I'm near Pensacola. Now I was born in Sarasota, but I live in Kansas.
I love Pensacola, by the way, LA. I think it's beautiful. I almost went to school there.
Would you like to kick us off with our true crime talk tonight, Miss Kiki? What are some of your thoughts about the trial coming up next year with Bryan Kohberger and some of the latest docs, that came out, like my video I did yesterday, which is apparently very successful.
It's doing really good. Yeah, that video was powerful, and you brought up a lot of the key highlights on that new document. So I'm just holding my breath. I really want to see what Judge decides on the 29th, because I went back and I listened to one of the hearings. I listened to the hearing where Ann Taylor was being called in to be questioned about Edelman's survey. And in retrospect, listening to that hearing, there was a lot of hostility between Ann and the judge. And it did, I just want to know, will the judge have that same approach at this hearing? Will he side more with Ann? We'll find out. So anyway, I'm just really anxious to know what the judge is going to say. And I think the arguments that Ann brought forth in this latest answer to the prosecution were just on point and powerful, especially Dr. Dyer's arguments.
Oh yeah, and one of the names yesterday in the document I couldn't pronounce. It was all I know was a weird last name and I couldn't pronounce it.
No, that happened.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad because I couldn't pronounce it. That's why I said in the video, "Sorry guys, I can't pronounce this."
I remember that.
But no, I've been thinking, especially when it comes to the case, and I'm not saying Brian's guilt. I'm not saying Brian's guilty. I'm not saying that. But what was the fascination with Wyatt Park though? On his part, I know that he liked to run and hike, but Wyatt Park, Wyatt Park does have that history, especially with from what I heard with Bundy, and I'm not saying Brian's another Bundy, but it's just weird that as soon as he moves to Washington, he would go to Wyatt Park.
Well, I have a couple thoughts on this. Oh, my dog just scared me. I'm sorry. So, the first thing I'm going to say, why Wawaya Park, before I get into the Bundy part of this. That particular park, for the activities that we historically know that from BK's friends have told us, that's his activity, night running. And actually, there were people who went into mainstream media. I have clips of them that went into mainstream media saying he did night runs. This was a habit that he had, particularly trail running. One of the few instances where we do know of a police report that involved Brian's name was when he was doing some hiking at night and his car got locked behind a gate. So I will just say that would be probably if you were a night runner on hiking fields, that would probably be the most likely suspect for your park, particularly if you're going to Wasu or even U of I. But back to the Bundy thing, it's when people bring up that theory, they're inferring that BK came to Wasu to follow in the footsteps of Bundy, which is very far from the truth. One of the things we recently learned in the last few months, one of the reasons BK went to that school was because he had an aunt that went there. He had ties to that particular school. That's one of the reasons he was looking at it. Plus, it had the PhD program that he wanted to. Because don't forget, BK didn't want to be a cop. He wanted to be a scientist. So that plays into a lot of these things we talk about too. But particularly when it comes with Bundy, that park wasn't even formed when the alleged body that people are allegedly connecting to Bundy was found. And it wasn't even found within the parameters of that park. But it's a good story and it's very riveting. So people put the pieces together and they make it sound like this is an actual story of BK coming to Wasu to follow in Bundy's footsteps. And it's sensational. And obviously it captivates us, but there's no truth to it. And there's certainly no connections. So anyway, and it looks like the chat has a few things to say about that. I was going to try and not look at the chat tonight, but it's hard.
Yeah,
Twistless
Bundy is not
out. What?
Twizzlestick said Bundy is not connected to the park.
The woman that was dumped.
Yeah, the woman that was dumped in 1971 went to WSU.
But she, yeah, I don't know. But we've had this debate, and I feel that it's a little unfair that it gets pushed in the media, because you get one of the most full names ever to, cross American headlines, and you put it in front of BK. I mean, if that doesn't create bias or prejudice, I don't know what does. Bundy never attacked you. Let's see, it wasn't the woman dumped on Wallaway Road. Yeah, that was the other thing. It wasn't within the bounds of the park, I don't think. I think it was just on the...
Yeah, Heather says Bundy went to the University of Washington, a totally different school. Thank you, Heather. But I just feel like with this case, Kiki, that we're not inside looking. We're outside looking in. When it comes to this case, we're spectators, and with our own thoughts and with our own opinions when it comes to this case. And it would be a lot better for us as creators if there wasn't a non-dissemination order.
Oh, right. God.
Yeah, if there wasn't a gag order, we wouldn't know a lot more about what's going on with this case, and we wouldn't have to look at the Idaho court doc and see sealed, like almost an entire page and a half that says sealed.
I know. I totally know what you're saying, and it's interesting to hear the families even saying it, like, let's just see what you have for a case,
Yeah.
And saying too, let's lay this out and let's show everybody the case that they have. I wanted to bring up another point that Twiz brought up. I don't know where it is now, but he was basically saying something along the lines of Bundy, that woman was a blonde, and didn't Bundy profile brunettes?
Yeah, Bundy profiled brunettes. Here's something that might make Heather happy. Tot Mom is in the news again.
I don't know. That's gonna make her happy. What'd she do?
She's trying to have another baby with her new boyfriend. I think this woman just needs to be sterilized.
I don't even know what to say. I don't know how to respond.
No.
Heather respond. I mean, you could put her in a pine ball.
And then she goes, OSISHIT. Get Nancy on it.
Get Nancy on it, right? There's one thing Nancy can definitely get on. Right? Helpful thing, Nancy.
Yeah. Oh, we're just talking about the cases tonight, American Princess. But yeah, she still lives in South Florida. She has been in and out of trouble with the law for the last decade. She got arrested for disorderly conduct because it was over a man, and she took her drink and threw it in the face of another woman, and apparently there's been a lot of stuff coming out about her and Jose Baez that apparently Jose Baez, in the tell-all book that he's now writing about her, that for a while her and him were lovers, according to him.
Well, people walked in the room and she ran out naked.
Yeah.
When she was in his custody, and control of all of her assets and all of her money. He was in the highest position of power he could possibly be over that woman. And I'm not sitting here giving credit or defending Casey Anthony. That's far from the truth. But how could that possibly happen? How could the courts just leave this one person in charge of all of her money, all of her freedom, and all of her future because he's her defense attorney? Like, to me, it's like, what? Like, how could anyone ever be put in that position? But then again, if you're just looking to get out of jail and this is your only opportunity, of course she's going to do whatever she can. But I mean, do we really blame? How is that her fault if she ended up,
Yeah.
has all the power over her? It's a statutory thing,
Yeah, man. Especially, she's been living with
Yeah,
one of
it's true, Heather. Sorry.
What?
I don't want to say Heather's comment, but she's right, probably.
Oh, I see it. But no. Apparently, she's living with one of her defense attorneys and his wife, and she's got her own photography business now. And this all came out in that Peacock special that she did, and she still blames her dad for Kaylee, and everything in that documentary was all about me, and it wasn't my fault; it was his fault. Basically, the entire documentary was he said, she said.
But it's not even he said, she said, because it's like we know she's involved. So it's like she said, and then she says more. Like,
Yeah.
there's no, as far as I'm concerned, connection to the father.
Heather says, "Yeah, I got Peacock just to watch that docuseries when it came out."
Too bad you didn't have a YouTube channel back then. Would have made some good videos. You know who has good videos on that is Casey Anthony.
Yeah.
Casey Anthony, Christina Randall. Sorry.
Yeah, I watch her from time to time. She does good stuff.
Yeah.
But
I have to say, if we're going to talk about that, also one of the best true crime females out there and everyone knows it because she's the queen, Bailey Sarian. What?
Annie Elise.
Bailey Sarian, please. She's okay. Good.
Annie Elise she's decent. She's got over a million subs.
Bailey has a lot more than that. You have to find out who Bailey Sarian is. Her hilariousness is legendary.
Yeah, Heather says, "I love Bailey."
Yeah, I love Bailey.
Yeah, the only Bailey I really know is the wrestler Bailey.
You used to watch Annie. I just don't watch her, but I like that she has inside sources. Like, she has FBI sources and stuff, and she gets inside information.
She seems really nice, Annie Elise. She seems really nice.
She's a nice girl.
Heather says, "Bailey is my kind of people."
I honestly would be
make pieces. I like Kimberlia also.
Kimberlia. Well, we'll have to check out Kimberlia. I like her name.
But I'm happy that they finally moved Richard Allen from that prison to the county jail. Maybe he can gain some weight back. Because he looks like he's at death's door, how thin he is.
I haven't seen a picture of him recently. I do not know that one that was going around the media for a while where he just looked frail. He actually looked, he was mentally gone in that picture. I don't know what you can tell from a picture, but to me it looked that way too. Yeah,
then there has been confirmed some of the a couple of the prison guards are Odinists because they wear the Odinist patch on their uniform.
I just found out what like Odins really are, and I don't like even want to talk about it.
Heather just said, "Yep." So what are we looking for with this hearing coming up next week? Are we looking for maybe the judge approving the change of venue, or are we looking for the judge to deny the change of venue?
I think he's going to change it, but I'll be honest. I think there's got to be some concrete things that get set forth in this hearing if he's not changing it. Because what's going to end up happening is the anticipated delays will happen, and then the defense can move in with their strategy, which is like this case won't be able to be held in the spring of 2025. Because of all the delays, it'll be like summer or fall, and then it'll just throw everything off, and they won't be able to accommodate it in Latah County. I don't know if that even means.
Yeah. It's something going on there in Moscow, Idaho. Now I'm wondering, since that news article that states that Bethany didn't see what happened that day, could she be called as a witness?
I think she will definitely be called as a witness, Robert. I mean, whatever she heard, she's going to be asked to state it.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine either party wouldn't want to take whatever she said and try and make it into their own narrative, no matter how vague it is. I'm dying to know if it's the same as what was leaked to the Mirror.
Yeah, because I mean, it is. I mean, it is kind of vague, because we don't know if they were in the 8 hours, if they were cleaning something. We don't know if they were trying to remove something from the house because their prospective sororities were already in trouble. I mean, we honestly don't know.
It's true. We don't know. I mean, I'm under the impression, until I hear something different, that they fell asleep and called when they woke up. But I think from the very beginning, there has never been a time where that 8-hour delay isn't what made this so mysterious. And on top of that, I don't think there was ever a time where nobody ever just said, oh, 12-hour delay or 8-hour delay, 8-hour delay. I mean, everyone was like, okay, we're going to wait and hear what they have to say for themselves at trial, But I think as time goes by, some of that turns into people filling time with blaming them, or I don't know,
piling on them on social media. I mean, in all honesty, Kiki, if Dylan could have just did something that night to help, instead of locking her door, when she heard Xana crying, she could have went to see exactly what was going on, but she didn't. She locked herself in her room. I mean, just like it says in the PCA, she originally went to sleep in her bedroom. So does that mean she went downstairs to Bethany's room, or did she go to that spare room, across from Bethany?
That's actually an interesting thought, Robert, because last night you were showing a picture where they were dusting for fingerprints outside the window of the spare room. Yeah. So that's an interesting thought. I think if she did leave her room out of fear, though, I think she would. I mean, I'm only speculating. We have no way of knowing. But I think she would have gone to her friend's room. But when you say, oh, what difference could it have made if she had called 911 right after she heard the crying? I don't know. I have heard the injuries, wouldn't have made a difference. But one thing the police had said from the first presser where they took questions is they said, and it was like a direct quote, wouldn't we have loved to have gotten that phone call in the middle of the night, because it would have led to, quickly or more accurately or leading to the suspect, rather than all these, questions and conspiracies now, and in a long time before anyone knew they were safe in that community,
Yeah, I mean, what college in their right mind issues a shelter in place and then lifts it, and knowing that the killer is still out there somewhere?
I don't know. I thought about that after you said it the other night, and I did have something to add to the conversation. I totally forgot about it, but I actually got my hands on a description. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay, I got my hands on a description of the actual shelter in place at one point. I'm sorry. And essentially, when that happens, they do ask the students with the shelter in place order to shelter in place, like literally away from the windows in an unwindowed room.
Yeah.
So it does require like more than just, excuse me, more than just staying in your house. It requires, I'm going to turn up my camera. I'm sorry.
Heather just said, would have prevented Kim and all of her nonsense.
Wait, what?
Sounds
What
great.
Okay, is Kim here? What's going on?
No.
Oh, hey, tell it to Elle. We were just talking about you the other night. Hey, Angel D. Hold
Hi,
on.
Elle.
Ambulance at the scene even after finding all that were deceased. Vivian, oh, for fuck's sake, Vivian says that they blocked off the street and had ambulances come. Then the press wasn't allowed, so that's why nobody has a indication of an ambulance.
Yeah, because
Would have prevented Kim. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Robert.
Yeah, see, it's on screen.
Oh, yeah. Not having an 8-hour delay would have prevented Kim.
Yeah, Elle says, I want to know why it took until 3 to send out the vandal alert. I think it was actually it was actually at 4:07 that the vandal alert went out. But I mean, still, and what's with the coroner, Kiki, calling a minor, giving a minor all the gruesome details of how her sister died?
I don't even know why a coroner is giving that kind of info over the phone in the first place. Like, I mean, if you're gonna give that kind of info over the phone, you might accidentally get someone who's 17 on the phone. I don't know, but why are they telling that kind of gruesome detail over the phone? That's a big questionable.
The minor, because the coroner called the minor's phone.
I don't know.
And have you noticed in this case, the varying details of, okay, the coroner says they were all asleep in their beds. Well, we're finding out that wasn't the case. Because Xana was awake on TikTok. Xana had a DoorDash. And they all didn't get in. They were all in the house about 2 a.m. What and according to the coroner, well, in my honest opinion, they were all asleep in their beds when they were stabbed. Even though Xana and Ethan had completely different manners of death. You had Ethan, who had sharp force injuries. You had Xana, who had sharp force injuries. Kaylee and Maddie, visible stab wounds.
Robert, I don't understand how. Okay, so doesn't the coroner have to come to the scene? Like, I can't.
She didn't get there till almost 5 o'clock.
I just can't understand how anybody could have even said that they were all killed in their sleep, knowing the defensive wounds that Xana had.
Yeah.
Knowing the wounds that Kaylee had. Knowing that she was thrown on top of Maddie trigger warning, everybody. I don't have a banner, so I can't put up a trigger warning
Uh,
here. Speculative, but
See, well, I'm going to expound on that just a little bit. Like Christy has come out and said that Kaylee was actually setting up. Kaylee was setting up and slumped over in the corner behind Maddie, because that room that Kaylee and Maddie in was so small. There was no escape for Kaylee and Maddie if there was somebody else in that room. Now, if you want me to, I can actually pull you up a picture of what that room actually looked like.
okay, yeah.
I just got to find it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just gonna finish what I'm saying then about I don't know how the coroner, number one, could have visited the scene and thought that, but number two, even with the injuries, to say all four were sleeping without knowing anything about the scene or anything else, knowing Xana's injuries, how could you think she was sleeping?
Yeah,
and I'm sorry to voice criticism or sharply criticize someone. I don't know how the process works. I obviously am not know anything about that profession, but I mean, it takes people so, I don't know. Let me stop talking.
Go ahead, expound.
Heather says, Swamp Rose, you think that the visible wounds are described that way because MMKG were undressed? I don't think, I have always been under the impression. So if I'm reading the piece wrong, not to pretend I don't understand what you're saying or anything, but if I'm reading the PCA wrong, like what Mikey was saying last night in our live stream, because again, I've been driving home the point hard that I thought Xana was the one who said there's someone here. But if Kaylee said there's someone here and there was dog barking, my thought is she came out because she heard something in Maddie's room and she came in and disturbed whatever was going on, or what and I don't know, I don't pass any judgment. I don't know if it matters. And then Tell It to L says it's clearly a town where the attorney is the coroner and the librarian and the dentist. LOL.
I couldn't get exactly into their room, but here's a diagram of how that marked in yellow. That's how small Maddie's room was.
Wow, when you have a comparison to the house, it really brings it home, that perspective.
Yeah, see how small that room was?
Mm-hmm.
They were trapped in there.
Poor kids.
They were trapped in there with Deanna Liver.
It's horrific.
Now here's how big Xana and Ethan's room was. Their room was bigger than Maddie's room. Here's Xana's room, and over there is Dylan's room. So which I can't figure out. You had the killer basically stomping by Dylan's room. Let me find the comparison, and it actually shows you the outline of the steps going up. I just gotta find it. There was Dylan's room. And right outside this door here, that's where the steps go up to the third floor. Yeah, I know American Princess. Dylan's room is right under Maddie's. And here's a comparison of what it was like that night. The people in gold are Dylan and Bethany. Whoever did it, I'm not saying Brian did it, but whoever did it had to walk, like legit walk, by Dylan's door up the steps. How did she not hear, Kiki? How did she not hear somebody stomping up the steps? Because the staircase is connected to her wall.
When I'm looking at the layout of the house like that, Robert, I mean, putting, the different questions that we're asking aside right now, like it's the hand of God that stopped those girls from falling victim to this crime too. Like how random is it that they picked those rooms off to the side? There's like no rhyme or reason to how the unaliver or unalivers came into the house and picked those victims. Like Bethany and Dylan are just so right there, like completely overlooked. There's been so much talk about the locks lately, and like how did the perpetrator get in each of those rooms with their individual lock? And when, not to trail off on or hijack your live stream or anything, but when we talk about Ted Bundy, there was the sorority house murder. And years later, they interviewed Bundy and they said, okay, so there were girls asleep in that house. Like you walked right by their room. Why didn't you kill those girls? Why did you kill these girls? And he said, it's very simple. I went into the rooms that were unlocked. So lock your doors.
Yeah, because Jeff Kernodle had replaced the locks on Xana's door. Now, mind you, all the doors, all that had the locks, they were keypad locks. So whoever managed to get into Maddie's room, and of course Kaylee was in there with her, couldn't. There had to be a way for them to know the freaking combination to the keypad lock. Because from what Jeff said, Jeff Kernodle, he said every door in that house, the locks were keypads.
And I want to say something about that too. Like I've heard people have said that before in the live stream, and I've heard people in the chat say, "Oh, well, I can break into any lock with a credit card." You can't take a credit card and wedge open a lock like this. It's not like that. Like the only thing I can think of is, I know there's a fault with certain doorknobs where, I mean, if you've ever replaced the batteries in them, you realize you can probably take the thing. So I don't know, how could he have done that? Like, okay, say it's one perpetrator and they have to dismantle a lock. Like, how did they get in the doors? How did they?
Well, you saw how flimsy the house was. The doors could have been, because I heard a theory a long time ago, and what if the perpetrator, basically, since the house was so flimsy made, okay, what if the perpetrator kicked the door in to Maddie and where Maddie and Kaylee was at?
I think you would have been able to. I think that would have set off the Ring door cam. Like that would have been a loud noise. That would have been louder than a scream. It would have sounded like a tornado. I don't know. It would have. What do you think, Robert? If someone kicked in the door, what? I don't know. But yeah, how else did he get in? Maybe if he like shrugged it with his shoulder or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
or if he had a crowbar.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how flimsy K-bar knives are. It could use that K-bar knife to pop the door.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. The K-bar, but that would have made the K-bar incredibly dull. But back to the whole kill kit theory, how else, without a tool of some sort, how is he getting past those doors? Unless he was picking the doors that were unlocked, like,
Yeah.
not to make another Bundy reference, but
I mean, you're right. I mean,
Locked.
Kaylee and Maddie were drunk, so they more than likely didn't have the door locked. They could have had the door open.
Computer Kevin says they knocked, and he's got a point. Like, this is whoever this unaliver is. They were sadistically cool, calm, and collected. They said, "I'm here to help you." Allegedly, was him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he might have knocked. He's the killer, or killers were that kind of killers, allegedly.
But I mean, with this,
Yeah, I don't want to be arrested for no reason. Obviously, DNA podcast.
true.
Yeah, we're all there with you. We get it. I mean,
I mean, with this whole, with this whole freaking thing going on, I mean, we've Kiki, you and I pretty much will dried up most every rabbit hole out there, and it just seems like new rabbit holes are getting opened, with absurd narratives, like the Chem Lab. That's an absurd narrative.
I'm releasing a video on the Chem Lab. I was just finishing up editing it before I had to get ready for your live stream. But yeah, Robert, I think it's really difficult to hear things like that because it's part of our freedom of press and freedom of speech, but like it just feels, I know the people who report on that think they're doing the right thing because they think they've, if you're convinced that somebody's guilty, you maybe want to help persecute them in the court of public opinion. But the thing is you just don't know what you don't know. And even if you know inside information, you don't know all the information, and you can't possibly know, the chain of collection and all those different to be convinced before you see all the evidence is just not true. And even if you want to always just blindly put your trust in the police also want to see the trial unfold and see the evidence presented and countered and make sure they have the right person too. It's not just going against the police to say, I want to wait till trial to inform my judgment. It doesn't mean you don't believe the police are trying to do the right thing, so.
Yeah, I mean, especially with that whole thing yesterday in that document breakdown where they're talking about if he's found not guilty, they're going to do good old boy justice. They're going to burn the courthouse. They're going to let the families decide his fate. I'm thinking exactly what is in the heck is going on in this world that if a person's found not guilty, you want to fire the police officers, burn the courthouse, start a riot, lynch the dude, let the families take care of him. I mean, is that mob mentality or what?
You know something? That takes it a step further than fair trial, because that comes into intimidation. When you threaten the police and you threaten their jobs, that's coercion, that's corruption. And, Heather Fitzgerald has said it several times, one of my mods, that judge still has to live in that town after it's all said and done. And those are like hugely legitimate points. And then when you bring up those things, those emotional statements that were said by people in Latah County that they would do if BK was found not guilty, just take a peek at the statements that were made by people in Ada County who were completely emotionally removed from the trial. So their answers were along the lines of, okay, so if BK is found not guilty, what would you do? And they say things along the lines of, well, we assume he wasn't guilty. like they answer unemotionally and reasonably because there's so much
Move
emotional.
on with our lives. It's no big deal. And I mean, that's the stark contrast between Latah and Ada. And if the judge does not move this trial to Ada, then they're basically telling Brian that, okay, you're dead. We're doing it here. Yeah, you're already guilty. You're dead. And that's not even an equivalence of a fair trial when a prosecutor in a small town throws a fit over a jury survey because he didn't like the questions on the jury survey. A woman calls the sheriff's department over questions on a jury survey. That is total bias. That is bias against the defendant.
Yeah. I just was like going down the chat, and not to change the subject, but Twizzle Stick asked if I got the log. What he's talking about. Just
And Heather just said,
it's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Robert, I know it's absolutely ridiculous.
and then Curious Rose, hello, sweet Kiki, Robert, AR, and amazing mods in chat. Hello, Curious Rose.
Always good to see you, C Rose. And
just there's a lot of times I want to pull my hair out with this case, because of everything I see in this case, is just ridiculous. I mean, basically telling somebody that, hey, AR.
Hey,
hey, darling.
how's everybody doing?
Well, we're doing okay. So, what's your take on what I've been saying, brother?
I haven't been. I just barely came into your chat. I don't even know what you guys are talking about because your thumbnail or whatever says Noah Pressgrove, and now we're talking Idaho 4. So,
well, I changed it to an open topic.
Peer pressure.
Just basically about the change of venue and everything in that document that Ann Taylor put out, stating that if Latah says if Brian's found not guilty, there's going to be riots, lynch, good old boy justice, wanting police officers fired, letting the families deal with Brian, burning the courthouse down. But we're in Ada County, they had a completely different response, stating that he must have been not guilty. Well, it's no big deal. We're just going to live our lives. And I just feel, brother, there in Latah is mob mentality. I mean, if he's found not guilty, they want to do all that stuff to him. They want to do all that stuff to the courthouse. I just feel like it's mob mentality.
well, that makes it sure seem like it, doesn't it? I mean, I would have to see the actual responses from people to get a better kind of idea or justification. But I mean, I think we all understand the community's feelings that they want this case to be resolved, and I'm not even sure they fully 100% are confident within their law enforcement or the way they've handled this. So there's a lot of questions still out there. It's going to be interesting to see. It's I think it's coming up, right? The 29th is when they have the hearing. So I think we're all going to get to see some fireworks before our eyes. But by law, the hardest part of it is, Latah County is the first choice of where they can hold that trial. They always want to give the area where the crime was committed first chance to seat a jury and, to hold the trial. And I know that's maintained pretty hard across the country. I've endured the want to change venues numerous times and been denied every time in my lifetime, except for once, where they changed the venue, and then the venue change was actually bad for me. So, I mean,
Oh.
we will definitely see the arguments that transpired. I know Bill Thompson wants it to stay in the area, and Ann Taylor obviously is pushing to get it out of the area. I mean, I'm still pretty solid in my firm belief that they should just go ahead and hold the trial there in Latah County. I believe that they can seat a jury there that's going to be the equivalent of anywhere in Idaho. I think the community does deserve the opportunity to be there and witness, what happens within that courtroom. And then I don't think he's going to have a fair shake of things until he gets into the appeals court if he's found guilty. I'm not saying he's going to be found guilty, but if that's the route that it goes, he'll be in the appeals courts for numerous years, and I think that would be his best chance of actually battling this case. I don't think he has a fair shake anywhere in Idaho. I don't care where they move it. He's not going to have a fair shake. So
No, and I agree with you, brother. He's not going to have a fair shake. Apparently they polled, they polled Nez Perce, Lewiston, Ada, and Latah. Edelman did. And according to Ann Taylor in the new doc that she dropped, there's less people in Ada County that's even paying attention to the case. Now, we're in Lewiston and Nez Perce, it's kind of tied with Moscow with the with the saturation of the case, because Lewiston and Nez Perce are all apparently conditioned to believe that Brian's guilty, where in Ada it's unbiased. Basically it's unbiased. That they really don't have anything to say about the case. There's 13% of Ada that believes is guilty, but the rest really don't pay attention to the case. And I know Bill Thompson was throwing a little hissy fit about the survey from Edelman. That was Ann Taylor's main argument in that document that she dropped, which was responding to the state's denial of change of venue, was Ada County would be able to accommodate the the witnesses and the experts, where Latah County wouldn't be able to accommodate very many people, and the courthouse in Ada is bigger, and the jury would be able to leave the courthouse underneath the courthouse through via bus, and you'd have media and people outside in Latah snapping pictures of the jury, where they could just live incognito in Ada.
Well, first, I'm going to kind of put you and Swamp both on the spot here, and I want to ask both of your opinions. Just a quick question: do you feel as though a survey that talks to 400 people in 3 different counties literally gives you the actual factual numbers?
No, I don't think that wasn't a controlled study, and it's not a study you can replicate yourself, because the questions were open-ended. The response that the defense just made clearly states the questions were unique to each caller, and they went with flow. That means that the results that Edelman got are non-scientific in terms of you can't go replicate those same results. You wouldn't be doing the same verbatim questions to the same person. So no, it's not a controlled study. But my feeling on the matter, now that I've really kind of wrapped my brain around it, is if possible and not unreasonable, under lots of circumstances, I think that if you feel your trial is more fair in another county, I don't know. I don't know, should you have the right to move it? They cited in that, actually, I have the document out back because there was something I wanted to read to you on it. But they cited somewhere there were 3 capital cases recently where a survey wasn't even done and they were granted venue change, which was the 2 Daybell cases and the Brib case. Yeah.
And Jeff H. just made the comment, I wonder if they move the trial very far away, if that will tie up the defense and prosecution more than necessary with scheduling witnesses, making sure they can get to the courthouse, etc.
Can I also give you just an idea of why changing venue for a defendant actually can make it harder on the defense?
Yeah.
The prosecutional witnesses, when they're summoned to testify in court, have to testify in court. When a defense summons a witness to court, they do not have to show up to court. Now, they can be treated as a hostile witness, but rarely are they ever in any type of trouble if they just stay silent when it's a defense witness. Now, a prosecutional witness can actually file contempt of court charges against you. They can file other charges against you. They don't do that against defense witnesses. So the only team, when I actually got my trial moved, and we moved my trial from a medium-sized city of about 85,000 people to a minimal city of about 22,000 people, thinking that we were getting less publicity in the smaller area because we were out of where it was so publicized and people knew of me, my family, the person that the injuries were, endured by. So we moved it. Well, I had 3 of my witnesses not show up. They decided they didn't want to make the trip. And 2 of those witnesses were actually people that saw what insinuated the actual crime happening, meaning I was baited into committing the violent act I did, but I had nobody on my side that was willing to be in the courtroom to give that perception that I was retaliating back upon an action that had transpired upon me. So I didn't have my defense witnesses. The prosecution doesn't care. They're not going to force those people to be there because it doesn't help their case. I mean, kind of another sample about how prosecution witnesses are. When I was called to testify by the prosecution in a case in Arizona where I had just got released from the penitentiary, and a huge riot had broken out before I got released. And the prosecution called me as a witness against the defendant who had stomped out a guy, making him brain dead and almost killed him. So they called me as a witness to set the scene to what had happened on the yard, not to actually testify that I saw him do anything, but about what the riot had transpired. Do you know they paid me to be there? First, they threatened me that they were going to violate my parole if I didn't come and testify. And then when I said, well, I don't have anything to testify to, I don't know why you want me to be there. I have no information on the defendant. I can't tell you anything. They said, oh, but, I'm sure you would like the $300 a day. We'll get you a hotel room. We'll pay your wife's wages for the day she has to miss. And of course, we'll cover your food and your gas for being here. And I'm thinking to myself, really? I'm literally out of prison. You're going to threaten me, but then pay me to be here. What do you want me to testify to? What am I here for? But that's why the prosecutional witnesses get the benefit. The defense witnesses don't.
How many people, just hearing something like that, how many people would accept a payment to say something? I mean, you can't just sit there and think that everybody lives by a moral code. that everybody is against lying, or everybody has a faith in God that they'll get struck down if they lie. Like, why would somebody ever think that there's value in testimony if you're paying them? I can see compensating. I mean,
and
but
what's funny is I had to be there. So they forced me to come testify, and literally what my testimony was explaining what a curb check of, like, a fight that breaks out and a curb check happens during the fight, meaning you stomp someone's head into the ground. They had me get up and demonstrate what a curb check is, because that's what they said the guy did to the other guy. But my only value in testimony of being there was to literally say, hey, I'm from prison. I have violent charges. I've been known to have been in riots and involved because I have charges and I have disciplinary for that. And they made me testify to, yes, I've been involved, blah, blah, blah. But then they said, now we want you to demonstrate what a curb check would be. And I said, what do you mean you want me to testify to what a curb check would be? And they brought out my prison portfolio and they said, so we have it documented right here. You were on disciplinary for curb checking an individual and I'm like, oh my God, they're really going to make me get up and demonstrate this. And I made the whole court laugh. Even my wife was there. She was laughing because here I am demonstrating like the dumbest looking curb stomp you could ever do. But I'm telling you, there were 4 other inmates right there behind me that came from the actual penitentiary on the bus from the penitentiary. And they all got paid to be there. All their families got money, and none of them told the truth. I knew they didn't tell the truth. I couldn't say anything, but I knew they weren't telling the truth because I was there during the riot. I know what happened. I just didn't have to testify to that. They were being actual direct questions, and they were lying, and they were being paid by the prosecution to be there. Isn't that sickening? I mean, that's sickening.
Yeah, that is sickening, brother.
To think that type of stuff goes down, and then people are like, well, you could never prove that. You could never prove that. You want to bet? I can't prove it because I had a parole violation for not testifying at the very first court hearing. So I could prove all of it because it's all documented. It's all in my parole paperwork. So if people want to think that, like, I make a situation like that. No, this is what happens in our system. This is what happens in these trials. The victims' families will be compensated, even though they say, oh, it's so hard for us to get there. It's so far away. They'll be paid. They'll be paid to be there. They'll be paid for their gas. Their housing will be paid for. The people that come as witnesses will get per diem food. They'll get their lodging paid for. They'll get cash money for being there. Now we'll just see, are they getting cash money for telling the truth, or is there going to be some manufactured statements that come out of it? Who knows? We'll see. But I know that false statements happen in these scenarios because I've been offered to do it myself, and I've seen other people take the money to do it. So we'll see. That's why I don't believe it matters. Like, I've learned my lesson from the whole change of venue. Do I think he's going to get a fair trial in Latah County? No. Do I think there's a huge risk factor, not only for himself, but his family or friends or people of support of him that could potentially have issues within the community? Absolutely. But where are you going to take it that you're not going to have that problem? Because you have to keep it within the state, and the potential problems are going to travel wherever the case goes. The same witnesses are going to be there. The same family and victims are going to be there. Many people will travel. Come on, do we really believe people are not going to travel to wherever this case is held? I mean, my good buddy over there, Twizzlestick, he's going to go wherever the hell they take Brian to put him on trial. I guarantee it. I haven't even talked to him about it, but I got a gut feeling he will go.
Yeah, Twizzlestick just said, I hope Twizzlestick just said, I hope Twiz gets paid for it too then.
Well, and I'm telling you, Jen and I have talked about it. Depending on where I'm at within my health endeavors, wherever the trial goes, I pretty much think we're going. We're going to travel to it, whether it be in Boise, whether it be wherever they want to try to put it. We'll do our very best to be there as well, because these types of things travel. So is it going to matter if they change the venue? The only thing that's going to make a difference is maybe the courthouse is being held in, and the hotels people are going to stay in. That's the only thing that's going to change.
I don't know. Maybe I should think about taking a road trip out. Although it's not the kind of thing that you can just, you have to plan like a year ahead of time. Once they get that venue change, it'll be hard for anyone to make plans. I mean, it's going to get sold out wherever it is. But I thought of it too, traveling down there for part of the trial or some of the trial.
Well, I guess I'm fortunate because of Jen's employment. It's anywhere it's at, I can get a hotel. It won't matter. So, I mean, if you want to come on out, Swamp will definitely meet up with you. I mean, we will help you every step of the way. You can use our car, whatever you need to do. I mean, but I'm just telling you, in my opinion, and I'm with all of you. I think there's some bully ball going on here. The state of Idaho seems to work on a different set of logic and different types of rules up there and what they're doing. And, I mean, I'm still shocked. I mean, even to kind of get a little bit off of the entirety of the subject, but even to go back to the Giglio and the Brady and the things that had to be, documented and given by the prosecution early on in this case. Why is nobody still kind of dissecting, saying which law officer or which individual within the prosecutorial team has some major violations that these things had to be documented to protect? Because we already know of Stickergate, we know of the Dr. Drake case that happened up and these are major players and investigators within this case, and we've moved on from discussing those types of things, and now people are so set on narratives of chem lab break-ins. And I have people emailing me that Brian Koberger has 71 federal charges right now as we speak. That's all false. That's all BS. And when you know the system and you've been through it, you know how these things work. I am a state convicted felon, and I am a federally convicted multi-felon. So I've been through both scenarios, and I have convictions in 13 states. So I even know what the multi-state conviction is. And I'm not saying that that's something special or that's something commendable, because it's not. But it gave me the experience that when these people talk to me, giving me their, well, this is the way it had to have happened, I could look right at you and call you a dumbass and say all of that's BS. It's like that's not what it is. So sorry, my rant. I came on your show and ranted. I'm sorry.
It's okay, brother. I mean, I was kind of ranting on Kiki's last night, wasn't I, Kiki?
No, but people were really receiving it, and people were really agreeing with you, and not just about stuff in your private life. When you gave your presentation of the defense's argument for change of venue or response to the prosecution's response, it was very powerful, and people are really upset. People passionately feel that there's bias in Leetah County beyond that is easy to measure, I should say.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you watched last night, AR. I was telling Kiki in her Members Only Live, we as creators and as people that don't live in Idaho, we're not inside looking on this case. We're outside looking in. And we don't know exactly what happened in that 8 hours, in that 8 hour gap. I mean, there could have been cleaning. There could, they could have been trying to get rid of something so they didn't get in any more trouble with the university. We really don't know exactly what happened in that 8 hours because we weren't in that house during that 8 hours. And I just want, I wanted to get what you thought might have been going on in that 8 hour gap. Because we are basically outside looking in to this case and to what happened in that house and everything else.
Yeah, the hardest thing is all of us are very unique in the way that we think about things, we look at things, and even the three of us here tonight on this panel, we each have a very unique way that we dissect things and think about it and mentally kind of prepare ourselves on how we want to speak about it. And then we have some other content creators, very good content creators, as a matter of fact, within our communities as well. They're in the chat tonight, and even the normal everyday people. But each one of us would have a different feeling about that 8 hours. Each of us would look at a different person within that 8 hours and think of what they either did wrong or what they did right, or why did they do that, or why didn't they. And the only thing that I legitimately, because I've sat down and I've thought about that, what do I think happened in the 8 hours? What could have possibly been going on? Why? And I think just the legitimate thing that most of us should be able to agree on is we just have to wait to hear it from those people's mouths, because what we think, what we feel, isn't going to be what they think or thought on that night. It's not going to be what caused them to react whatever way they did or whatever they did. Until we see them on the stand in their own words, in their own facial expressions, in the way that they carry themselves, we're not going to legitimately know, did they do right, did they wrong? We can't continue, I guess, in my opinion, to dissect that 8 hours, because now we're at a point, they've arrested somebody now, and this person is awaiting and going through the process to get to trial. So that 8 hour block is going to be heavily dissected at the trial. And that's what we need to be patient, wait for, because it will tell us a lot when that happens. It will tell us a lot.
I totally agree with you, AR. And go ahead, Kiki. What were you going to say?
Yeah, Robert, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off either. I was just going to reiterate. Sorry, I'm picking on you so much tonight, Heather. I was just reiterating something Heather said in the chat, where she said the 8 hours could maybe be explained, but what really makes it impossible to explain is one of them seeing the guy. And again, I'm not part of the Dylan pile-on, but yeah, that's what makes it so unbelievable to everybody. But again, I remember that with that attitude that we all had, like, wow, that's really weird. We were like, okay, we'll find out at trial. There's got to be an explanation.
Yeah.
And I ultimately, in the overall look at the 8 hour situation, of course, we could all question the Dylan situation, but I think more importantly, what people, if we could sit down and patiently think it out and then discuss it, why are we not looking more at why would law enforcement actually throw her under the bus? Because utilizing that little bit of information that they gave about Dylan in the arrest warrant, the PCA, to me, that just seemed useless. Okay, she saw a person this height, wearing a mask, walking past her on the way out the door. Somebody like myself that kind of thinks within the criminal mentality of things, because I'm thinking about the crime scene and the crime as it's happening, putting myself into almost the criminal's position, as if I broke into the home and now I'm on my path out of the home and somebody sees me. So I'm hitting the rewind button thinking, first of all, how'd that person see me and I didn't see them? Which I don't feel as though that's possible. Like, I just don't. looking at the floor plan of the home, and I'm thinking about myself venturing out of the home, I wouldn't have missed a person there. I don't care if it's slightly dark. I don't care if your door's only slightly open. I would have noticed the door was fully closed coming into the home. And now I'm ready to leave the home, and that door is now slightly open. Something right there would have caught my attention, and people would say, well, Brian Koberger was in such a hurry that he just didn't. Come on now. I mean, he's methodically walking out of the house. There's no statement saying he was running out of the house in just a frenzy after being in a quadruple homicide melee. No, they make it seem like he's just gradually walking out the door. He's going to notice that door's open. And he most likely would have heard during the melee the numerous times the door opened that Dylan came out to hear and, hear whimpering and things of that nature. You're going to hear that door open. I mean, I've been in homes that I broke into. I hear everything. I hear you open the refrigerator. I know where you're at in the home. So I don't know. I think we need to really kind of take a deep breath and analyze what is law enforcement literally trying to do by putting Dylan on front page news when the very beginning of all of this during the press conferences, first they didn't even want to admit they were there, but then when they did have to admit they were there, they pretty much insinuated they were sleeping the entire time. And people had questions about that. Not how did they not get woken up? How did they not hear what happened? But then in the PCA, it blindsides all of us, and now she's a witness. Doesn't make sense. None of that makes sense.
And I mean, if it's true what we've heard, her laying in her bed yelling STFU, with what was going on upstairs, wouldn't the unaliver would have heard her yell, shut the bleep up? And that would have caused me to go downstairs, wouldn't it?
There's no possible way if anybody yelled anything in that home, if it truly, well, I mean, there was an intruder, obviously. We don't know who the intruder was, per se, all the way to guilt. Right now, Brian Koberger is the one on trial for it. He's the defendant. They're saying it was him. How would you not hear that? Think about it in the frame of mind. Like I said, sit down and patiently think about it. If Dylan is able to hear somebody whimpering and a voice say, I'm here to help you, and she can hear the dog play upstairs, how do you not hear someone literally yell, shut the F up? How would Brian Koberger not have heard that?
Yeah.
And again, people will say, well, it's in the middle of the crime. It's in the middle of the frenzy. You still hear it. You may not have stopped immediately what you're doing, but you heard it and you compartmentalized it. And that's going to make you, when you're coming back down those steps, let's say he's upstairs when he hears that in the initial part of the crime. They say it started upstairs. I don't fully agree with that. I don't think it started upstairs, but let's say it did. Him hearing somebody in the home is going to make him exit the home because now he's thinking, I'm caught. That gives him his exit strategy based upon everybody's thoughts that Maddie or Kaylee were the actual target. He's already in the midst, in most people's, scenario, attacking his target.
Yeah.
So why don't you just leave? When you get the feeling of being caught in the middle of a crime, let me tell you, it's nerve-wracking. Like, if you feel as though you're on the verge of getting caught as a criminal, you run like hell. You're not trying to get caught. You're trying to get away with it. So why do you stay? if you've gotten your target that you're there for, and you hear the noise that you're caught, why do you stay? You don't have to go back downstairs and attack more people. There's an exit right there. There's a window, there's a back patio, or even if you run down the stairs, you already know where the exit is because that's where you came in from. You make that first left and you run out the back door. You go. That didn't happen.
Yeah, Jeff asked, AR, why don't you think it started on the top floor?
I truly feel as though the initial part of the attack was Xana coming up the stairs from getting the notification that the DoorDash was delivered. I just have this feeling that it's just they ran into each other at a bad time, and that's why I feel like there was some chasing on the second floor. Xana was initially attacked, then the movement upstairs. Ethan found Xana. And that's when Brian Koberger was coming back down. Well, I shouldn't say Brian Koberger. Excuse me. Whoever the attacker was. Right now, they're blaming Brian Koberger. So I'm only using that name as because he's the one that they're stating did it, not because I feel like he did it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just like
he started on the second floor.
I was gonna say, just like Toy Thomas just said, Xana's fingers were basically cut off, and Kaylee was overkill. Now, but brother, do we know exactly who the target was that night? I mean, could it have been Maddie? Could have been Kaylee? Do we know who the target was that night, brother? They are.
Well, I mean, all we can do is speculate anyway, because. But if AR is inferring that the unalivings began on the first floor, then maybe he does feel that there is a target.
What happened, brother? They are. He must be having difficulties with his internet.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's start there. One of the things that really gripped me when AR was saying this, and I didn't really even think about two things, is the first one is he says that if it were him in that house as the criminal, he would have heard that door open. He said he would have even heard the refrigerator door open. He knows where you are when he's in that house. Those were like the exact quotes AR was giving. AR, are you there? Am I talking over you? Anyway,
no, I'm just saying, I think I'm back. I don't know if it's my side or somebody else is having internet issues. So
no, you were there, then you froze, and then you dropped off. So, I mean, did you hear the question? Did you hear the question I asked you, or before you dropped off?
I haven't heard anything, but I was very interested in hearing what where you were going, Swamp. You were just about ready to say something really good, and I wanted to actually hear it.
Thank you. That struck me when you said that about the doors. So when Dylan opened those doors, it was just making me think, like you were saying, if you were the criminal in that house, you would have heard that door open. You would have heard a refrigerator open. You would have known where everybody in that house is, which is a chilling thing to hear, but it's a fact. If the house was silent at 4 a.m, you would have heard doors opening. And it never occurred to me before that he would have heard activity downstairs. Now, if the fight ensued downstairs in the beginning, he might have thought it was aftermath from what had just happened. And then the other thing that you said to me that I guess I didn't register before is when Dylan yells, "Shut the F up." Now, let's just say that fight did ensue on the first floor. So like the person if that's true, the person who got attacked first, the last thing they're going to be yelling is shut the F up. I mean, it literally is the last thing someone struggling for their life is going to yell if there's an attack upstairs. So that statement in itself would have let him know there's somebody uninvolved, or the perpetrator know there's somebody uninvolved downstairs. So those 2 points do change a little bit for me when I talk about how I kind of was theorizing the killing started on the first floor, because I don't know, or it's just something I will have to wrap my brain around next time I read through the chain of events in the PCA, because those things would have been factored in, opening the door and shut the F up.
Well, and I'm going to give you, I mean, this is just coming based upon, I guess, my history, my experience, and the things that I've learned even from people that I've been locked up with and been around. You have to understand that, you know, not only do I have the experience and the knowledge of the crimes that I've committed and the way they made me feel and the way they made me act and the things that I was able to distinguish about crime scenes and what I couldn't, but I've also been in so many conversations and read so much documentation on other inmates, very similar crimes to this one, meaning very violent, loss of life. I've learned a lot from those things, and you know, I'm not any type of like mental psychologist or anything like that, but when it comes to criminal behavior, when you're breaking into a home and you're committing a crime, whether it actually be completely planned to where you know details of the layout and everything of that nature, or if it just be out of the blue, never been in this area before, I'm just going in. There's two effects that happen, and I've actually experienced both in the commission of a crime. You can have a blackout mentality once the crime actually begins, that your mind is not literally processing as normal, step by step through the commission of the crime. So you're only going to remember the very vital bits of the crime, which in most senses is the intended end result of the crime. So if you're going in for a violent crime, like when I've never had anything like this, but I've had some seriously violent situations. And in the times that I blacked out, I remembered the end result of how I left the person or they left me, but I didn't remember every detail, like, you know, opening and closing cabinets or doors or whatever of that nature. Now, the other option to that is fully detailed remembrance, to where you are literally every step of the way knowing everything around you. And what that is that's methodically working your way through the details of the crime. So you're taking everything in because you're so alert to what's going on that I literally could tell you through certain commissions of my crimes exactly where your dog was. I could tell you if there was an infant in the home. I could tell you if you had fish in an aquarium in the living room. I could tell you whose door went to where just by hearing it, not seeing it, hearing it, because I was so into the moment. I was so listening to everything. Even during the commission of the crime, I heard everything and I put it all together, and I knew whether I was going to have a smooth exit or if it was going to be a difficult one, and I had to rearrange my abilities to get away or get out. I knew when to leave before I actually accomplished what I was there for, because I no longer had the time to do it and I was busted, or I knew I had extra time because it was quieter than I thought it would be, and people must not have been there that I thought might be. So in looking at Kohberger, the only thing I can do is look at him visually, and then I, of course, have researched background history, and I've listened to what people have explained to me about his demeanor and the things he says, and I come to one really big thought-provoking analyzation of him based of just my background. He's a very intelligent individual. He's very detail-oriented. He could tell you where the dirt on his floor was 3 days ago and how it blew with the wind to the other side of his room. I understand people will say, well, he has visually snow, he has a hard time seeing it. No, that guy can give you the details of whatever you ask him details about around him, and he'll give it all the way down to the bottom line. That's what helped him get to where he was in the PhD program. And that's why people are dissecting him, saying that when he graded papers, he was overly harsh on females and this and that. No, he was so detail oriented in what he was doing. He adapted to the concept that the best way to teach them was to literally find their errors. When he interacted with the police officer over the simple left-hand turn through a light ticket, people want to get on him like, oh, they have sidewalks and all that stuff in Pennsylvania, but they're missing the point. Kohberger was literally using his right through details to prove why that officer should not ticket him. He was going through a methodical checklist of details. This is the person that Bryan Kohberger is. I could get into so many debates with people about the crime and how it was so detailed and miraculous that no evidence was found other than the sheath and this and that. And that just happened to be, Kohberger would have known about that sheath. Kohberger would have known that would be the piece of evidence that busted him. There's no doubt in my mind that if Kohberger were the perpetrator of this crime, he would have already known he was busted just based upon that sheath. He knew. He would have known. I should use that term. He would have known that was there. He would have known that would have been the busting piece of evidence, not based upon the fact that he felt as though DNA would be on that sheath. He would know that they would research all of the details of who ordered that type of knife, who, could have possibly had that, and they would always look at the outsider first. Do you guys know that in investigations, a lot of times when these horrendous crimes like this happen, they look at the outsiders before they'll look at people within the community? Did you know that?
I didn't. I always thought they looked at the closest people to the family first, or the closest people to
They look for the outsiders because those are the people that they would feel came into their community with the opportunity to devastate the community, where they feel as though the community bond would be the reason why something like this wouldn't happen, that the community would protect these young ladies and the university students, where an outsider would be more attacking of it. That's why if you realize some of the big, cases like this are outsiders.
Yeah, WSU Mom Kim says, AR, I agree. Also, he would not have worn Dickies. But I got some starred comments from Jeff H. He said, after hearing still more loud noises that night, Mortensen opened her door again and saw the accused killer, who she assumed was a party goer, source said. And then he also went on to say, Mortensen allegedly opened her bedroom door around 4 a.m. and yelled, "Calm down, you're being too loud. I'm trying to sleep." And
okay, so again, Swamp and Robert, here's what we're going to do. We're going to sit down and we're going to patiently dissect this and think about this for a minute. Okay. Why would Dylan Mortensen ever believe this was a party goer when she absolutely knew she was the first one home before everybody else? Okay? Because she was the one that deemed when everybody else went to bed. Mm-hmm. Why would this be a party goer when there was no party? She knew there was no party. So what party goer would be strolling through the house in a mask?
And at 4 in the morning.
What party? What party is this person supposedly strolling from? Are you talking about the party at the frat house? Because that wouldn't be a party goer strolling through the King Road house. None of that makes sense. That's why I'm telling these unconfirmed sources.
Yeah, thank you.
That people are willing to just throw information out there and say, well, I got it from an unconfirmed source. Well, you know what? I sat down with the lady at the bus stop the other day, and I'm going to say she's my unconfirmed source, that's all BS. I mean, come on.
Jeff said those are all quotes from New York Post, not my own words.
No, I know. Jeff, I didn't take it like it was you actually stating that. But we all know who the sources that keep putting this stuff out. We see the Daily Mail. We see all these articles that are being written. That's all about money. It's all about pay. The more views, it's like a YouTube content creator. I make more money the more times people click and watch my show. I make money. So, of course, I want as many views, as many likes, as many comments as I can get because I get paid. Well, so do these news articles. So do these writers. So does Howard Bloom. So do these people that are all out there with these narratives. It's money. It's all money.
Yeah.
And the bigger the narrative gets, Robert, the bigger the narrative gets and the more people that get involved in that narrative and begin creating side narratives to fuel that major narrative, now you are all collaborating and earning money together. You might as well just say you're all making money together and sharing it. Because that person's telltale supports that person's telltale, which now supports that person's telltale, and everybody that's clinging to those stories is going back and forth and giving all of you the views and the love, and you're all making money, and it's all shared money. So now you might as well just connect the ring together, all hold hands and make money together, because that's what it's about.
Mainstream media bias and mainstream media narrative. I totally agree with you, brother.
But it goes deeper than that, guys. It goes far deeper than that. I mean, do you understand now the YouTube world's becoming a part of that narrative? Because mainstream media is pumping stuff into the YouTube content creators world, and we're all drawing lines in the sand of which side of this, debate we're going to be on. And now we're putting out material that's either promoting what they said or we're talking about disproving what they said. So now we've funded them. They're funding us. And guess what? It even gets worse, because now you're going to get people that are actually around the case. And I hate to say it, it could be victims' families. It could be friends. It could be anything of that nature that's going to fuel into the YouTube creators world, because they're going to reach out and start doing shows and videos, getting more clicks, more likes, more views, more money. I mean, it's a sick rotating world, and that's why I draw back a little bit. I'm getting more reserved in who I deal with, who I'm actually going to interact with, because of the fact, I mean, I get the emails, I'm sure you guys do too, that come from all different directions. I get the Facebook messages, I get all kinds of stuff, and here I am. I'm a little sickly guy that stays off of the media platforms as much as possible now, but I still get them. So if I do, I know you guys are. But think about the big channels, the big people out there. And I'm thankful that I call you guys actual friends, just like Pete with Murder Metal Mayhem and Lucky. They're friends to me, that we're all on the same understanding of why we're doing what we're doing, and we're not money grabbing. Like, we're not actually money grabbing. We do this because we are interested and we enjoy it and we want real justice, not because it's going to make us a couple of dollars. But, you know, there I went again. I just kind of ranted again.
You can rant all you want, brother. You know that.
Well, I mean, I feel like, you know, as people, we're all good people. We really try to make a positive impact, not only, you know, with what we're trying to accomplish as individuals, but even when we come together and we do shows like this. Like, I wasn't, you know, overly knowing I was going to come on your guys' show tonight, and I appreciate you guys allowing me to come up. And of course, I always speak so much, but you know,
Well,
it's really a privilege.
You know,
to
you're
work
welcome
with.
up here anytime, brother. You know that.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I'm not trying to take over your guys' show. I'm really not. I just want to get a second up here and, you know, just kind of speak a few things I had on my mind today. But, you know, it's a privilege to work with individuals like yourself and with Pete and with Lucky and, you know, some of the very good people I've gotten to meet, like Jeff H. I love Jeff H. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to him personally in a while, but him and I have shared some excellent conversations where he truly helped me as a person. Heather Fitzgerald, I talked to her behind the scenes a lot. She's been huge. A Curious Rose. All these people accumulate to, you know, very important parts of what I'm trying to accomplish, but even more so my life, what I'm trying to endure in life itself right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like we all see some of the crazy stuff going on. And, you know, I've really had to kind of think about it hard. Like, am I going to go full bore and use my voice to call out the BS that I see that's going to upset some people and fluff some feathers? Or am I just going to kind of waddle my way through, make a little bit of content, and just continuously let people, you know, just run it? I don't know, run amok, you know, and it gets old to see it happen, and it really does.
I really liked your video last night about like I was telling Kiki earlier, the absurd chem lab narrative that's being dribbled around right now, and I know it's a ridiculous narrative and it's absurd.
Well, I mean, and that's where I just hope people kind of understand where I'm coming from on that, is knowing the system and knowing how charges have to be filed, where Washington State has a time frame that they have to file charges against somebody for those crimes, and they can't just overlook those crimes if they know that they were committed and they have a suspect. They have to file the charges. It's mandatory. You can't just say we're not going to file charges unless they're going to come out and say, well, we can't prove it. We don't know if he actually did it or not. Well, that's a different story. And in that case, is it fair that the narrative is pushed as if he did do it, yet they can't prove he did it and they won't even file charges on it? So why are we speaking upon it? Like, why are we claiming someone potentially did something, but nobody's pursuing charges on it? Come on now. Come on.
Yeah, just like Heather.
Common sense.
Yeah, just like Heather just said, having a gag order in one case doesn't mean you can't charge someone in another state for a crime. But I mean, even with the gag order, brother, what other case? I mean, was there a gag order in the Lori Vallow Daybell case, the Chad Daybell case, the Delphi case, any other case? Yeah. I think this is the first time I've ever seen a gag order come down so quickly, but even before the trial. I mean, Magistrate Judge Marshall is the one that invoked the non-dissemination order because Ann Taylor and Bill Thompson both agreed for the gag order.
Swamp, I want you to cut in here. I know you've been kind of wanting to get some words in. I want your voice to be heard. So please, come on.
One thing that I was thinking of while you were talking, AR, is you said something interesting to me today, or the other day, and I wasn't stop it, Rocco. I wasn't quite sure what questions to ask, but it went something like this. We were talking about how BK was charged by the state of Idaho for these crimes, but the FBI was pursuing him, and no FBI charges were made. And you said, well, FBI is going to place charges if they can place charges. Why is it that the FBI didn't charge BK with crimes rather than the state of Idaho? Just since I had you here and you were talking about that last time and I didn't get a chance to ask you, one, do you know what I'm talking about? And number two, can you elaborate on that a little bit for me? Because you seem to have like a lot of knowledge of these two different federal versus state crime.
Well, it's a very easy way to sum this up, because I had a crime that was kind of similar to this. Obviously, it wasn't, 4 homicides, but it was 2 different states, and it was federal charges could be involved in this. And I'll tell you exactly, feds take the lead. Feds is the bigger funded entity, and they are more private within their whole process of charging and sentencing people. People don't understand that. The state is wide open to interpretation by all because it's an open court, open process. The feds is not. The feds do not have to give you any information for any reason. But I will tell you this, in the Bryan Kohberger case, yes, the federal investigators dug into Bryan Kohberger. There's no doubt about it. They shredded up everything that they could possibly get. They collected evidence. They held a grand jury, not only in Pennsylvania, but I guarantee you they held a grand jury in Idaho as well, federally. People don't know that the feds can go federally by the state that they want to. So you could be federally indicted in 12 different states. It doesn't have to be just one federal court. It could be the federal, people that were working within Idaho can take it to a grand jury there. They could take it to a grand jury in Pennsylvania, which they did. We all know they did because they called Bryan Kohberger's family to testify. That was a federal grand jury that was called, and Bryan Kohberger's family was there. Now, here's the thing that you would see the difference of. If Bryan Kohberger was federally indicted, meaning the feds got the indictment to charge Bryan Kohberger with federal crimes, he would be housed in a federal facility. I don't know why people don't understand that. He would not be in Latah County Jail.
Yeah.
He would be in a federal facility because he has federal charges. They cannot mix federal inmates with state. Ever. You can't mix them.
Just like Twisted
Now,
said, I'm going for a late night drive and getting accused of 5 murders in states you weren't in.
Right. But why is Bryan Kohberger not in federal custody? Because the indictment did not come back against him, meaning they did not collect enough evidence to charge Bryan Kohberger with federal offenses. Now you have to scratch your head, because if a federal indictment was not come back against Bryan Kohberger, yet Bryan Kohberger resided in Washington State, and these crimes were committed in Idaho, if during the commission of the crime, meaning Bryan Kohberger walked out of the door of his apartment to go commit this crime, that's federal. He crossed state lines with the intent to commit a homicide, a crime. Now, if Brian Kohlberger was in Idaho and left somewhere to go commit the crime, it's no longer federal. He didn't cross state lines. Meaning, if Brian Kohlberger was sitting and hanging out with Enon Harsh at an apartment or at the grub truck or whatever, and he's in Idaho, then leaves to commit the crime, that's not federal. He didn't cross state lines with the intent to commit the crime. But in the PCA, it documents that he was in Washington driving before his phone went off. Then the commission of the crime happened that he's charged with in Idaho. That's federal.
Yeah.
If you shut your phone off prior to a commission of a homicide, that's a federal charge. Do you know that? People don't know that. See, these are things that I know from personal experience and going through the courthouse that people with layman, like they haven't experienced it, don't think about or go to the full gamut. If you manipulate an electronic device during a commission of a capital crime, that is a federal charge.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Okay, well, here's the thing is that, so we've heard all this talk, and I've made the rule up on my channel. I'm not talking about Garrett Discovery for certain reasons, but what was inferred by the expert who created the chip that was allegedly in Brian's phone, you know, they said that something had happened to the information, basically that it was corrupted. They didn't come right out and say it, but those were the narratives that were being pushed on us in the last 2 weeks. But what you're saying is if that was actually the case, if somebody manipulated their data in the commission of a capital crime, there would be federal charges.
Absolutely.
There's no federal charges. So that's just
If
something
I
that we learned.
If I willingly and knowingly take my cell phone out of my pocket while I'm driving on my way to commit a crime, and I put my phone into one of the phone manipulating baggies that they sell that could stop the cell reporting, which, I mean, come on, we got to think about how stupid this is. If he didn't need his phone during the commission of the crime, if he knew he was only going to be gone for 2 hours, he would have just left his damn phone on his nightstand of his apartment, and none of this would have been happening. But instead, you know, we got to make up these narratives of how he put it in a, you know, phone manipulating baggie so they couldn't track it. And
well, this was even, they took it a step further. So there's somebody there right now in the chat, they were saying, well, can't they tell if it was put into airplane mode or turned off? This was different. This is like the type of thing you would do. Let's just say you were selling your phone and you wanted to completely scrub the data. There's no way to actually remove that metadata, but what you can do is override it. So you can overwrite it enough times that it would be completely impossible for somebody to decipher or find out what that initial metadata was. So that's what was suggested by the expert that was brought out on those 2 other YouTube channels a couple weeks ago, suggesting that what had happened was somebody had tampered with the metadata by overriding it. But you're saying that's a federal crime. And if there was, right, so if there was some sort of evidence of that actually being done, now that's different than a Faraday bag. That's different than powering down your phone. That's literally manipulating the phone for the commission of capital crime, a federal offense, but there are no federal charges. So if there's evidence of that, where's the charges? Because they said they would be, the feds would be, like you're saying, AR, they're not going to miss the chance to bring federal charges on BK if they have them, right? They wouldn't hold back on that.
the feds would have taken ownership of this immediately and told Bill Thompson, when we're done with him, we'll go ahead and bring him back to your court, because we'll get the actual sentence done first to where he's convicted, sentenced to a federal crime, and then we'll bring him back and you guys can just go through the motion, because none of your counts truly matter compared to the federal counts. The federal counts is what they want. And if they can get somebody on the highest level of federal charges, which in this case, if you put the pieces together that the narrative is wanting to call for, him being a Washington State University student that took the lives of 4 people attending U of I in Idaho, that's a federal crime. That's a capital federal crime. That is the death penalty federal crime in the feds as well. Now, on top of that, you're going to have manipulating of all of the cell phone data, all of the things of that nature. They're going to charge him with even breach of the cell phone towers and manipulating these people's, like, if he's caught that he made a fake Instagram account to, interact with these girls on, and they find any type of harassing type of interaction between him, going at them and threatening them, that's a federal crime. If he stole anybody's ID, everybody's going at this whole ID thing. That's federal. That's not state. That's, and I can break down all the charges because I've had them. Fraudulent schemes involves other people's personal property, IDs, cell phones, anything of that nature. That's federal. You could also be charged in felony 2 in the state, but the federal, it's a top of the line terrorist style charge. The feds would have BK so wrapped up right now, he would have already been sentenced. If they legitimately had an indictment against him in the federal court, he would already be sentenced. This would be done and over. He would already have minimum life sentences, and the state play would just be, at this point, a plea bargain with the state because he's already serving consecutive life in federal penitentiaries.
Now, if he is found guilty but sentenced to life without parole, he doesn't have to stay in there in Idaho. You stay there in Idaho, correct? He can transfer to maybe a prison closer to his parents.
He can't. He can put in for it. They can review it. Now, if he's convicted of these crimes, he's going to be a lot up the same creek as Chris Watts. They're going to find a penitentiary somewhere Midwest, South Midwest, to where they can house him for a while out of the public eye, to try to get him some protection within the prison system. You got to understand, he was an aspiring law enforcement person. He's going to be treated like a cop in the penitentiary.
Yeah.
Is that fair? No. But that's what he's going to be treated like. And let me tell you, coming from the roughest of the penitentiaries, they don't make it. They don't make it. I mean, I was housed on the same yard for a while that Derek Chauvin got stabbed those 22 times on. Obviously, I wasn't with Derek Chauvin, but I was on that federal yard right there in Tucson where he got stabbed up. I know how rough they are, and that was considered a lower fed yard. Imagine the high yards, Bryan Kohberger, I mean, I don't know what, at the end of the day, Idaho will deem that they want to do with him. But, he'll go out of state for a while and then he'll probably come back at some point. But, I mean, if he gets the death penalty, he has to stay in Idaho because they'll put him on the executionary list and then they got to go through the appeals and all of that. So he'll be on death row there in Idaho, which I think with my research, there's only a handful of people on it right now. So he'll be in a unit that probably has like 5 people in the building.
Oh, he'll be right in there with freaking Chad Daybell then.
Yeah. I mean, everybody on death row is housed in the same run. Like in Arizona, the death row unit housed, I think it was like 90 people. And then just outside of that slider door, you had what was considered the max segregation unit. And the reason why they did that is they wanted everybody to have to listen to the death row people cry and scream at night for their lives. So it would teach the people on the high segregation unit to act better so that they didn't end up in that unit. And my cell was literally the first one for 4 years just outside of the death row slider. So I got to listen to all that for 4 years. And, I got to talk with a lot of them. I got to interact with them because we were literally just feet away from each other. So Bryant Kober, I mean, if he's going to be sentenced in this crime, he doesn't want life in prison without parole. He wants the death penalty if he's found guilty. Plus, that gives him the best actual chances of appeals because now you're capital appeals rather than just, life without parole. Those people sit and wait and wait and wait. They're not on a priority, compared to people that are on death row. So.
All right. Well, we've been live for 2 hours. While you were talking, AR, I just got a phone call from my cousin. Wants me to come pick him up. He just got out of jail. I'm gonna go ahead and end this live. Yeah, he just like legit called me while you were talking. That's why I was muted. And he goes, "Hey, cuz." I'm like, yeah. He goes, "Can you come pick me up? I just got out of jail." I'm like, "Well, where am I taking you?" He goes, "El Dorado." I'm like, "Well, I'm live right now." And he goes, "Well, how?" He goes, "Okay. How long do I have to wait?" And this was like at an hour 50. I'm like, 10 minutes. He goes, "Okay."
Well, I was editing before I jumped up here. I just finished a video that I was going to get posted up too. So it's probably good that maybe the timing, but I do truly appreciate you guys that you allowed me to join and to talk way too much. I always enjoy having a conversation with you guys. So.
Yeah, and then I always enjoy having a conversation with you too, and I do appreciate you allowed me to come up on your panel the other night when you went live.
Yeah, Jen and I are we're going live this upcoming week too. Unfortunately, Pete's back in the hospital with some issues going on. Aww. Jen and I are kind of looking at. I think we're going to do lives Monday and Tuesday, probably once on my channel and then once on the new channel. And it would be a true pleasure to have both of you guys join Jen and I live. If you guys would like to do that, I would love to have both of you on. And then Wednesday, I'm making my decision. I'm scheduled for surgery to have my right kidney removed on Wednesday or Thursday. So we'll see if I'm going to go ahead and sign the paperwork and move forward with that, because I'm still kind of looking at other options, and I'm not fully sure I want to do it, even though it's scheduled. I already have the opening on the right side of my body, so right now I literally have a brace around my rib cage and stuff, as my body has been opened, and they're doing some superhuman stuff. So if that happens, if I'm having my kidney removed, I'm going to take the rest of this year off. So I will be out of view, out of sight till 2025. But hopefully I can get a good decision made. So keep me in your thoughts while I'm kind of making that decision too.
AR, not only will we keep you in our thoughts and prayers, but we are keeping the nurses and the doctors and the medical staff that are helping you pave the way for your treatment. We're keeping them in our thoughts and prayers, and that God guides their hands. And you're so strong and you're such a fighter. I know that you'll persevere through this surgery, and then you'll have a whole new bunch of things to inspire us with when you finally get through this. So.
Okay.
Well, I definitely appreciate it.
Here's what Twizzlestick said to you, Kiki. Swamp Rose, tell AR to come too.
AR, they want me to go live after Robert's done. Do you want to come live with? Do you want to go live with me?
Yeah, I can do that.
All right.
Yeah, I'll listen to you guys while I'm driving about 25 miles off to El Dorado.
Robert, I'm actually just so happy. I'm glad your cousin's getting out of prison. I'm glad he has a support system getting out, and there's just not like walking out onto the streets. It's good, it's a good thing. So we're happy for you, and we're keeping your family in our prayers as well.
All right. Well, thank you two for joining me tonight, and maybe we can do this this coming up week sometime.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's all stay in touch and we'll figure it out. Let's kind of look at Monday or Tuesday, unless I decide to push off the surgery for a while.
Okay, sounds good to me. And WSU Mom Kim, I've told him the same thing. So we agree with you on that.
All right. Well, everyone have a good night. And I want to thank my guest, A Convict's Thoughts with AR Hayes. Please go check out his channel. Hit that like button on his channel. And Kiki with Swamp Rose. These two are both amazing content creators, and I'm proud to call them my friends and family.
Oh,
we appreciate you.
All right. Peace out.
Chasing all the good things that await ahead. I know if I get out of my own way, I'll be winning every single day. Do it my way, do it my way. I've been dealing with myself for a while. I always have my mind in the sky. Have you seen the one from his high? I'd say, yeah, I live this life, I live it my way. Shorty ride with me, she coming my way. How you so fly, hey? We gon' fly away, yeah, we gon' get high. Someday I'll gon' see how I bossed up, but I kept it low key. How they talking down when they don't know me, oh. And it's just so easy when you overcomplicate. I hit her with the layup, pay up. I get no sleep, I be up so late. I be working hard, good food on my plate. I'ma keep on going on, never be afraid. I'll never be afraid, no time running, chasing all the good things that await ahead. I know if I get out of my own way, I'll be winning every single day. Do it my way, do it my way.